I believe in connecting over networking. Networking, you're looking to get, connecting, you're looking to give. And again, I mentioned that I believe in leading, creating, serving. That serving piece is that connecting piece. And relationships are incredibly important. And it is so different that in government, you're not necessarily taught to go out and network and connect because you want to make sure that you are not giving an unfair advantage to someone. So I wasn't even on LinkedIn as much. And as soon as I left, I realized that you need to be a bit more visible. You need to really hone in on those relationships.
All right, welcome to another episode of Tools, Talents, and Techniques. And today, my guest, Kameshia Freeman. Welcome to the show, Kameshia.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we jump in, could you briefly introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. I am Kameshia Freeman, and I'm a Senior Vice President at JLL, where I serve as a strategic advisor to government agencies and educational institutions. I help the public sector navigate complex real estate challenges by providing them with innovative solutions. And with all of that, I'm a connector. I consider myself a connector, and my focus is I'm focused on building long-term partnerships that deliver measurable outcomes.
There you go. Well done. Concise and robust. There it is. So I like to start these conversations with a origin story, so you can tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, and just kind of set the groundwork for the rest of the conversation in your career.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm from Eastern Arkansas, from a very small town called Mariana. And just to put it in context, our nearest major city is Memphis, Tennessee. And I was raised with three other siblings. I was the middle child, and we all know what comes with the middle child. But I was always always this independent thinker, this go-getter, this very precarious child growing up. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, when you said that about the middle child, like immediately to my mind, all the middle children that I know. So, I don't know if everybody else out there listening and watching knows what that means, but just think about it for a minute. Think about that. So hey, listen, I want to talk a lot about commercial real estate in this conversation, but I think it's
Mhm.
appropriate to talk about what your mindset was growing up, or what did you think you were going to do when you got older, when you were young, when high school or as a child?
You know, what's interesting about that question is it's something when I'm always talking to my sisters and my sister-in-law about my nephews is that allow allow your kids to speak freely. And that comes from as a child, my mom always allowed me to speak freely. And I know that sounds very contradictory saying that I'm from the South because it's in the South, you do what you're told and don't talk back, but I was raised to respectfully challenge, um, as an adult, as a child. And then that shaped who I am as an adult because growing up, I talked to anyone. And if it didn't seem the way that I wanted it to go, if I didn't quite understand it, I would always ask why. And again, that's a leadership trait that has served me well throughout, my adult years as well. But growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know. I thought maybe I'd be a lawyer. Then I thought maybe, I'd be an engineer. But what I did know was that lead I wanted to help others. And so growing up, I was in a program called Ventures in Education and maybe starting in the eighth grade. And it was a group of students that we took rigorous academic classes. And then my senior year in high school was a small group of us, maybe about five. We spent our senior year in high school at a community college. So always ambitious, very driven, and I knew that I wanted to go to college. That much I did know, and like so many of adults my age, we saw it on the Cosby Show. We a different world that gave us this idea. It's like, yeah, this is what college is. I want to be a part of it. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up. That at least I knew that I wanted to go to college. And in terms of my major, I ended up attending the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, probably one of the best decisions that I've made,
Hmm.
and majored in agricultural economics.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I want to talk about a couple of those things.
Mhm.
Seeing what we see on TV and like this is what college looks like, this is what success looks like, and having that reference point. Were there other people in your life that you look to as mentors, like not necessarily on TV, but people in the community, family? Who did you look to for, I guess, a model of success?
Well, so many people, starting with my mother, because and I looked to my mother for strength. Like, she just taught me to be a very strong woman. And so, first and foremost, I remember telling her growing up, I want to be just like you. And she would say, be better than me. So, and then educators, from my best friend's mom. She was an art teacher, but she was so poised and so polished. And it's like, oh, I want to be like her. But then there was my fourth grade teacher, Miss Robinson, another educator, that I remember her giving me books at the end of the school year so I can. Of course, be the teacher because I'm the leader. So I could be the teacher at home during the summertime. So those were some of my role models growing up.
So when you decided to take that major in college, what was that decision? Like how did you land on that? And was it your freshman year that you decided that, or was that something that evolved?
So, what's interesting is that one of my childhood friends, she was older than me. She came home from college, and it was time for me to make the decision. I knew I was going to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, but in terms of majoring, like, had no idea. And she was an agriculture business major, and I was like, this is business, but you're just learning business aspects from a farming side. And then my uncle, he was also in agriculture. Let's just put it this way, a lot of my family were ag majors in one respect or another. And so that was part of it. And then the program at Pine Bluff, they had a very good agricultural program. So I was like, okay, let me give this a try. And it worked.
Yeah,
So that's
you liked it right away?
I did, and, I liked it because the you had instructors, but it was family. I was able to do work study through the program. I was part of Minorities in Agricultural, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences is a program where I was able to get an internship through that program, and my work study was with some of the leadership on campus, agricultural leadership. So I liked the program because it was a family, small classes, and they you couldn't fail. They would not allow you to fail with so much support.
That's amazing. And that's so nice to hear when you take a chance or you enter a program and there's people that back up what they're say their words with their actions. So that's nice to
Absolutely.
hear. So you get this major, and you graduate. What's the next step? What's the first job that you had outside of college?
So so I started with the General Services Administration while in college.
Okay.
And it led to a 21 plus year career in federal service. But so in college, my first internship was with USDA, the Department of Agriculture. And I always tell, college students when I speak to them, that internship is a mutual benefit. It's for you to figure out if this is what you want to do, and it's also for them to figure out if they wanna keep you. And so my first internship was in Casper, Wyoming, and I had a wonderful time, and I learned
Okay.
a lot. But Dustin, I'm afraid of dogs. And so I realized that this will be challenging working with farmers with the USDA. And so that was my first internship. And the second internship going into it's my junior year. I saw a sign that says the General Services Administration at a career fair, and real estate, government, never I never connected the two because when
Mm.
we think of real estate, especially in the South, our ideal of real estate, for the most part, at least for me, it was residential real estate. And so I was able to, speak with them, but they were only hiring graduating seniors. And I remember telling my career advisors, like, man, I really would like an opportunity with them, but they're only hiring graduating seniors. So a few hours later, he called me and he said, well, they're interviewing tomorrow and I need you to show up. But they're only interviewing graduating seniors. It was actually that same day he told me to come over. He said, show up. And I did. I did what I was asked, and I was sitting outside of the interview door, and I waited because he knew what I didn't know is that someone may not show up for their interview, and they're going to have time on their hand. And while they have time, why not talk to Kameshia Freeman? And they did, and they made an exception. So they hired all graduating seniors that summer, with the exception of me. And I was the one a junior, uh, going into my senior year that they hired. And it was um, a great, a great relationship. So much so that when my internship ended, they found an opportunity for me in Little Rock until I graduated and moved to Dallas.
That's amazing, and I think there's another lesson in that is that closed mouth don't get fed,
Ah,
and
absolutely.
if you didn't say anything, then you wouldn't have gotten the advice to go ahead and show up.
Oh, and to add to that, stay ready, because, I showed up and I was ready and I waited. So if you stay ready, I would tell my nephews all the time, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. So
That's
always
right.
prepare.
That's right. So okay, that's amazing that you got this opportunity and you got your foot in the door. About the being afraid of dogs thing. So when we got to talk about this. So did you go to a farm and were like, I'm not walking on that farm because there's a dog there? Like, how did that come to
Oh,
light?
Dustin. Okay, so we would be out and I would visit these farmers and their cows, and I was fine with the cows and the horses.
Yeah,
But
everything
whenever
else but the dogs.
everything else, and I would see a dog and I would run back to the truck. And, you know, yeah, it was not a good fit. I've always been afraid of dogs. So,
Well, you know what? But they chased you right into a great career. So
yes.
okay, so so when you get your first glimpse into real estate, and I hear you about the residential thing because it's the lack of knowledge and exposure to commercial real estate for me was such it was such an eye opening experience because I didn't
Mhm.
get into commercial real estate until I was almost 30 years old. And by the time I saw it, I was like, wow, there's a whole world over here. There's a whole universe, and not just the ownership side, but the brokerage, the management,
Mhm.
the leasing, but then it's all the trades, the roofing,
Yes.
the signage, like all of those different things, the law. There's so many different aspects. So when you first saw like the government and the real estate, what was your take on that? What was your experience when you first stepped into the role?
It was very eye-opening. I was a part of a 3-year internship program. So it's like post-graduation internship program with the General Services Administration. And over those 3 years, you were a property manager. You did construction work, and you did real estate. You were a realty specialist, but then they gave you exposure on the financial side, on the federal acquisition side. So you really had a holistic view really everything that GSA had to offer. And during that 3-year period, you had the opportunity to select, like, what's the best path for you, and they would make it happen. And so my path was a leasing specialist, and it was because I wanted to negotiate. It's exciting to get to work with brokers and negotiate leases. And I was also a lease administrator, so as part of the internship program, you had leases that you were required to administer. And that helped me to be a really good leasing specialist because as a lease administrator, I had to administer those leases. I saw what was right and what was wrong and what needed to be changed. So when it was time for me to develop my lease, I knew what to include in it.
And also, I want to tie this back to something you said earlier about your ability to, I want to say, push back or, maybe even disagree agreeably and speak your mind in a respectful way. So when we talk about talents that you had, what was that the main one that you would say that led you to have initial success in that role?
I think it was also that I always went above and beyond. So if there was an extra assignment, I wanted to do that extra assignment. If you needed help doing something, I wanted to be that person to provide that extra help. I never said, "Oh, that's not my job." I wanted to do the work because I knew that I was always thinking ahead that after this program, then what? What's the next step for me? And I think my leadership, they saw that in me. After I completed the program, 2 years, maybe 2 years later, I was in a supervisory role in Houston. And it wasn't because I was had the most experience. I think they saw leadership in me. They saw that I knew how to lead and that I could encourage others to follow because I always say that I'm extremely passionate about leading, creating, and serving. And so I was able to lead, but if I see a problem, I want to create a solution for it. And then I want to be of service. I want to help others. So I think those three components is what led to my quick trajectory within the federal government.
Yeah. So also, would you, especially in commercial real estate, you mentioned the financial side of things and the numbers because a lot of big numbers and a lot of complex terminology and on the lease administration side. But what was that like dealing with like the numbers? Did you take well to that pretty early on?
I would say so, but in negotiating leases in the government, is either lowest price or best value. And so it comes down to like you set your benchmarks and who's going to come within those benchmarks. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so as you're going through your career and when working in the government, were there any things that surprised you? Things that you came across that were, I don't know, like challenges or obstacles that you're like, "Oh, this is a unique challenge," and had to come up with a unique solution to
Oh,
get through it or around it?
absolutely. So after I became a supervisor in Houston, I was managing their real estate program. Few years later, I moved to Atlanta to become a regional program manager for the national brokerage contract. And that provided me with an opportunity to, work alongside some of or be a work alongside some of the largest commercial real estate firms like a JLL. So I was a client for 20 plus years before, I joined JLL. But what I learned in government is that we would do things the same way because that's the way we've always done things, right? And so what I learned is that, again, from the childhood is that challenge that why are we doing it this way? Is there an easier way to do it? Well, let's work to streamline this process. And once you start asking those questions, you start asking why, you realize, there isn't a really good answer for the reason that we've done it this way, other than that's the way we've always done things. And because of that, I moved from being a regional program manager in Atlanta to leading GSA's national brokerage contract. And that came with a complete overhaul of the program because I was able to create more efficient ways of not only running the program to our private sector partners, but streamlining the internal process of the way we were managing the program internally.
And so this is all internal in a government program, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so this before you left for the private side. From what I hear, and government in general, it's really hard to move things along and make changes, a lot of red tape and things like that. Um, so when you're making these changes, what did you? Were there certain things, and we can drill back into, some of your skills and your talents. Like how do you maneuver that process of the red tape and the bureaucracy?
Oh, well, you have internal and external customers, and I treated the regional leadership as if they are my internal customer. How can I get to a win-win? It was never about me winning. It was about creating a mutual win-win. And so that would require me to listen to the leadership. What's not working with this program? Let me get your feedback. Let's set up a task force so I can hear from your team. And so if you get that buy-in up front, now it's not a program that Kameshia owns. It's a program that the regions own. It's your program. And so for me, it was things are not as difficult to move if you are creating a mutual win-win situation and getting buy-in.
Well, that's a great life lesson in general. That's not just in the workplace. That's in family dynamics. That's in the community, dealing with a HOA or whatever you got to, just
Yeah.
getting consensus amongst other people and understanding that you're on the same team. So that's fantastic. I want to skip steps here,
Okay.
but I do want to make sure we have enough time to talk about, the transition from working for the government and then going on to into the private sector. Like what was that decision like for you, or that transition process?
So I had, like I said, 21 years in the federal government, and it was during COVID. And I had to take a step back, and I realized that I think I'm as far as I can go. I had a successful program that, my team, we were extremely successful, we're award winning. In terms of performance measures, not only did my team, my national team, we achieve our performance measures, but all of the 11 regions that were a part of the program, they received the highest level in the performance ratings as well. And then it's like, I don't know if I have anything else to offer here, and this can't be my ceiling. And during COVID, we had so much time on our hand. It just allowed me to think about what's my next step. And just one day, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to quit.
Mm.
And it takes years. Like most people don't get to that level in government, especially not at 40. I think I was like 40. And it just doesn't happen. And so, there were a few people that's like, "What are you doing?" And I remember my dad was like, "Do it." And so, and I always tell people, I bet on myself. And if I bet on myself, I'm not going to lose.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, I remember him telling me like a year prior, so like, "One day you're gonna come work for me, you're gonna be my COO." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not gonna happen." But they reached out to me again and they asked me if I would join, and I worked at a boutique real estate company for a year, and it was a great transition from, from the federal world to JLL, and we learned from each other during that year. And one day while on the call, I see my current employers, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's amazing. So, okay. So going from the government, seeing it from that side, for all that time and then work on the private sector, what type of advantage did you say that you have as an advisor, as a as a commercial real estate professional in general, because you know the other side so well, and then working with clients and relationships, but really the whole system and how it works together. Talk about some of the advantages that you feel like you have.
In my role at JLL, I think I have the advantage because I know how the government operates. I know how they think, and I know the pain points. I know what some of the roadblocks are, but then being on this side, being on the GLL side, I also know what tools we have available to offer to help them be more efficient. And I always say that, I wish I had a Kameshia when I was at GSA because like it's so many tools and it's so much research, it's so much data that we have that could, if I had that information on the GSA side, I think I would have been a little bit more efficient. And so
Yeah.
for me, is that I think I still speak the language. I still have friends in the government space and I stay closely connected to it.
Yeah, so that goes into the relationships part of this, because business in general, it's a
Mm,
lot about relationships.
it is.
And talk about that, and about what your experience has been in developing relationships over the year. I know you talked about how you lead, how you treat people, internal and external, like clients, and try to be a resource. Talk about the importance of relationships in your career.
To start, I believe in connecting over networking. Uh, Networking, you're looking to get, connecting, you're looking to give. And again, I mentioned that I believe in leading, creating, serving. That serving piece is that connecting piece. And relationships are incredibly important. And it is so different that in government, you're not necessarily taught to go out and network and connect because you want to make sure that you are not giving an unfair advantage to someone. So I wasn't even on LinkedIn as much. But as soon as I left, I realized that you need to be a bit more visible. You need to really hone in on those relationships. They were there, but not as much. And so, what the first thing that I did was I joined CRE, Commercial Real Estate Women,
Mm.
and to this day, it's been a mutually beneficial relationship because I know I pour into it, I add value, but they've also poured into me. And helped co-found the African American Real Estate Professionals with one of my former colleagues at the boutique real estate company that I worked for. Remember he mentioned to me, it's like, "Hey, I want to start this organization, ARAP," and he mentioned it maybe 3 times, and a third time I was like, "Okay, we're doing it on this date, and this is the location," and like we've moved past the stage of talking about it. Now it's time to do it, and with both of those organizations, I'm constantly imploring people to join it and giving them the why behind joining it. And I'm always engaged on LinkedIn. I tell people I try to never turn down a request for a meeting, or at least I'm going to respond to your message because opportunities come from that. You never know who you're turning down. You
You
never
never know.
know who you're speaking with. You never know, and from that, I've had opportunities presented to me, and it's like, "Well, I reached out to this person, and no one responded back." Well, I try to respond back.
Yeah. Well, those type of lessons that you learn throughout time, of like how it feels when you're on the other side, just helps you empathize more. It
Yes,
makes it makes it can make you a better person. Some people just make them bitter
absolutely.
and go the other way, but that's a thing too. So so starting AREP, you're talking about AREP Dallas, the Dallas chapter, correct?
ARAP ARAP DFW, the Dallas chapter,
The Dallas
yes.
chapter, yeah. So with the Black Commercial Real Estate Network, that was one of the things when we started. Uh, there were other organizations around there, like AREP LA, and organizations doing great things. also Reese, the real estate executive, like all these organizations are doing great things, but they didn't have anything in San Diego. And so I was like, well, what do I do? So that was kind of the genesis of me starting the Black Commercial Real Estate Network. And now I feel like there's been a lot of positive things, and I think one of the things that I would like to do more of, and I think we have with DFW AREP, but also how do we connect all these organizations? Because everyone's doing so many great things, and I just don't want us to be in silos when we're all swimming the same direction. So I mean, that's just something that we're working through, and I think we're being I know we're being very intentional about it. But I did want to say congratulations on the evolution of the DFW chapter of AREP. So that's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Yeah,
And, and thank BCRN for their support. Like, you all have been extremely supportive of ARAP, so of ARAP DFW, so thank you for that.
yeah, no, absolutely. And it's one of those things where a lot of the work that we do, it's not really outward facing too much because they're really just like you said, connecting people. And we have a lot of
Mhm.
people that are early in their career that are asking about something or need some advice or need a connection, and a lot of those things are, I wouldn't say behind the scenes, but they're just interpersonal. It's not like this big event to do this. And I mean, maybe we would do that if we had more funding, but really, it's like the intention is just how do we help people? How do we help the industry? And how do we help other people
Yeah.
that have positive intentions? But on that note, you mentioned crew, you mentioned AREP, DFW, you mentioned the organization that when you first got started out in your career, like the internship. And I apologize, I forgot the name of it. Are there any other? What was that again when you first got in?
Yeah. So I was part of Manners, but I was also, like, on SGA and
Okay.
Agriculture Club, and, of course, my sorority, I was the president of my sorority in college,
Of
so
course you were. Of course you
yeah.
were. Um, so I want to make sure that we take this opportunity. Like, are there any other organizations that you think were instrumental to your development and your success?
Um Definitely my sorority,
Okay.
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and it's because you taught leadership. Eh,
Uh,
y y You know how to conduct a meeting, you know Robert Rules of Order, um, you know how to dress because you were wearing a suit to a meeting, and so I tell people that when I graduated from college, I had my wardrobe for the workforce because I wore suits in college, and so definitely, my sorority, but even with crew and Arab, I tell people today, this is a safe space for you to practice your public speaking skills or practice working with a different group of people that you may not work with every day and learn from each other. So all of those organizations have been extremely helpful for me. It's just any organization where you get to learn from someone else and you get to pour into someone else.
one of the things that you mentioned about efficiencies, working at the government and, in everything that you're doing. Also, when it comes to being involved in groups, how do you shorten that learning cycle for other people? If it's like, wow, it took me this long to learn this thing. And if you can help somebody who's on their path shorten that learning curve and maybe not, it's good to go through the bumps and bruises and get the scars from doing it. But there's certain things about having somebody who's been there before and done that to say, hey, I know you want to make a left here, and if you do, that's fine, but you're going to come up against this and that. But if you make a right, there's another thing over there that, might be better for you. Like that is so helpful and so meaningful. And like you said, people are like, well, I wish there was a Kameshia where when I was first starting out. Is that something you think about intentionally when you go into meeting with people?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to share with you my story. I'm going to share with you why this may not work for you. And I'm going to share with you the why, what happened. And at the same time, just because it didn't work then, it doesn't mean that it may not work now because I don't like it when people tell me, I'm in business development. So I don't like it when people tell me, well, I talked to this person or I did this a few years ago and it didn't work. Well, it didn't work then. It doesn't mean that it may not work now. But for the past 17 years, I've been a part of this program called the Youth Motivational Task Force at my university, and it allows me to go back as a professional, I'm paying my own money to go back and talk to college students. And it's for professionals to go back to talk to college students to share with them their experiences and what it's like after college. And we're visiting multiple classrooms, and then we have joint sessions. And what I tell my story, like this is my story, and this is what happened. Like, don't get credit cards in college because that will follow you after college, and your teachers are your first mentors. Use them because they'll be writing your graduate school recommendation letters. And so I love to pour into people. And like I said, and what worked for me, it may not work for you, but what you will get from me is the sharing of the information. I'm going to share it. I don't want to hold it. I want to give it away.
Yeah, that's amazing. So also when you gave a couple examples, like don't get credit cards, you know, but are there any common questions that come up that you answer from younger folks that are getting into the workforce?
Oh, yeah. What I find is they're extremely hard on themselves sometimes, and I relate to that because I'm incredibly hard even to this day, and I just give yourself some grace. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Enjoy the journey. We're gonna make mistakes, but grow from it. Self-care, those are also questions. How do you balance life and work? And my response to that is that we make a date with everyone else. We put everything on our calendar. Put yourself on your calendar. Make
Hmm.
some time for yourself. um, Lots of questions around mentorships. And everyone, we talk about mentorships and we talk about advocacy. But if you have a mentor, use that mentor. Come to the meeting with a plan. And if they ask you to do something, do it. So those are some questions that I often get
Let's talk
down.
about this.
Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
let's talk about. I want to talk about this self care thing about making a date for yourself and scheduling the time. When did this come into your mindset and your practice?
Probably during COVID.
Really?
Probably during COVID. Now I love, I'm gonna always take a vacation, and my happy place is in my kitchen cooking. Those are my happy place. But actually, just making that time to like calm down and rest, and what gives me rest, doing what gives me taking those walks. I was doing it before, but more intentional about it during COVID.
Yeah, and so also with that, finding those things, understanding that, knowing that, but also finding what are those things that give you rest, give you energy, and doing that. Have there been any like hobbies that you have besides cooking? I mean, I'm sure you're great. Haven't had a chance to have any of it yet, but if that's your
I'm
happy place,
great.
I'm sure it's good. Uh, but like, how do you go about finding those hobbies in your life? Has it been a through line or anything else besides going for walks? Because that's one thing. When you say going for walks, if you were to told me when I was, I guess a teenager or even in my 20s that some of my favorite activities are just going for a walk with my wife, I'd be like, wow, man, you're old. And I am old, but like, it's amazing. So like,
Mhm.
how did these things that you've realized in your life become a priority? Like walk me through that. No pun intended. Walk me through that.
No, no, but going for a walk, I don't it's something about the fresh air, and the people watching, and it just feels good to me. It fills my cup, it feels good, and that's one of my favorite things to do is that I love to go walking on the Katy Trail, and it's a park. across from my home that I walk in the morning. On the weekends, I can take 2 or 3 miles on Katy Trail in Dallas. I love it, and it's because it's like a stress reliever. It's calming. It's calming to me.
So at this point in your career and the things that you're doing, and congratulations again on your success
Thank you.
and what you're doing. Is there um a next step for you within the organization? I mean, not putting this. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But as you're looking at the government side of things, and you're like, there's a ceiling. In a place like a major company like JLL,
Mhm,
like there's opportunities there, right? And
mhm.
so do you um see the evolution of your career?
Well, what I will say about being here at JLL, I chase peace. I chase
Mm.
peace and I chase good culture. And good culture, that means that money is also included in culture, right? So I don't want people to think that is one of no, money is included in good culture and supportive leadership. And I get all of that here at JLL. It's work, but I'm happy, and I have supportive leadership that continue to not only find opportunities for me to grow, for me to stretch myself. I feel like I have a seat at the table, which allows me to either bring others to the table or into the organization and share with organizations that I'm proud to support, like ARAP, DFW, and crew.
There's a lot to be said about bringing your whole self to an organization or to any interaction for that matter. And the fact that you've had so much experience, life experience, but then work experience on the government side, and then, coming to JLL and having this positive experience that you're having, it's really special to see what you're doing. And just I guess in a way saying like congratulations and proud of you. It's really cool to see, and I'm always cheering you on. So before we take off, and thank you again for coming on today and sharing your story. I want to give you an opportunity to. There any parting words of wisdom that you want to give our audience?
Oh, sure. Just to summarize, what we talked about, the universal truth, opportunities come to those who are prepared. So you stay ready, you don't have to get ready and take care of yourself. It's a non-negotiable. You have to take care of yourself. You can't be good to others if you're not good to yourself. Um, be your authentic self. I was just telling a group of young women a couple weeks ago is that you belong in every room that you walk in. Because I know some of us, sometimes we suffer from imposter syndrome, but if you're in the room, you belong in that room and to chase peace. Trust me, it will pay itself later. Chase peace, chase good culture, and be good to yourself and be willing to give to others. And I always like to say, surround yourself with people that can help you grow and that you can grow and you can pour into as well. I always say I don't like to be around people that think just like me. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah, sage words. Kameshia Freeman, thank you so much for joining. Always great to be with you.
Thank you.